every member of the team. So we'll post that. If you want to have some fun, for those of you that may not know, we release the Mentor of the Month on iTunes now. And you can log on to iTunes, just type in Crown Counsel, and it is there as a podcast. And if you program that correctly, it'll automatically download that podcast every time we post a new one. Finally, hope you're taking advantage of the Skill of the Week every week at crowncounsel.org under Training, Skill of the Week. We also send the link out every week. And that has been one of the most popular things that we have ever done in the Crown Counsel. And if you can put up with the presenter, then you can work through it. But it's, I hope you're taking advantage of that for the whole team. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's topic, Stop It, Managing the Unmanageable Patient. Again, you're in listen-only mode. You can hear us. We can't hear you. You're welcome to submit questions at any time during the presentation by typing those questions into the question box on your control panel on your computer screen. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted at crowncounsel.org hopefully before the end of the day, and we will release the link on the Crown Counsel email network. With me is Pam Peterson, who all of you know as the lead practice advisor at the Total Patient Service Institute. Pam and I have worked together for many years, and she is one of the best leader managers that I have ever met. And this really is her topic. She's the best at what we're going to talk about. I've watched her in some unbelievable situations that seem to be totally unmanageable, and she always figures out a way to come out unscathed with a win-win for everybody involved, and is really a remarkable at her ability to do this. So I'm very excited that she's with this and that you have an opportunity to see her wisdom and expertise come to play here. So as we get started here, yes, ma'am?
I said thank you.
You bet. So as we get started here, here's a couple of questions as you think about the context of what you do every day in your office. I want you to ask yourself this: if you have ever heard yourself, a fellow team member, or someone on the team say something like the following, these questions. First, have you ever heard anybody say, have you ever said to yourself, our patients are crazy. These people are nuts. There's just something wrong with them. Or has anyone ever said, all they want everything, but they don't want to pay for anything. They expect it all for free. Maybe you've heard yourself say, our patients just don't get it. You remember the Dumb and Dumber movie. they just don't get it. They don't understand dentistry. They don't understand taking care of their teeth, whatever it is. They just don't get it. Or maybe you've said, some people just don't care about their teeth. They just don't care. They don't value what we do. Or maybe you've even said, it must be a full moon because our patients are acting like it. It seems like everybody all at the same time is coming in, and they all have emotional issues. And finally, maybe you've said patients around here just don't care about gum disease or keeping their teeth. They're just, they just don't get it. So maybe you've heard yourself at one time or another say one or more of those things. And so the question is really, what's going on here and what's going on? Pam?
All right, Steve, you are right on track. Whether you've heard one or more of these things about your patients, it's a common theme. Attitude is like if there's something wrong with a person, the real question is, what's wrong with our frame? I actually had an experience with one of your fellow colleagues, a Crown Counsel member, was in his practice, and a patient called. She was pretty abrupt, not very nice. It's where team members will go, whoa, the phone's still burning. But the team member had a happy-to-do-it attitude. The patient came in, and she was even more aggressive when she came in. After spending time with the doctor and the assistant. Come to find out, the patient's story was high fear, afraid of the dentist, and she spent every single day taking care of loved ones that would soon die. She was a hospice nurse. So she had plenty of days that just weren't happy days. So it was kind of hard for her to come in, skipping, being excited to the dentist, especially having a story such as hers. At the end of the story ended really well. She got her treatment done, felt loved, and they actually spent the time taking care of her like she took care of all of her patients.
Thanks, Pam. Here's the first takeaway, the first realization. If your frame or your attitude is that when you encounter a patient that has behavior that seems to be unmanageable, if your frame or attitude is that there's something wrong, if there's something inherently wrong with the patient, then it logically follows that the only way anything is going to change is if the patient gets whatever it is that's wrong fixed. They got emotional problems, they need to go deal with their emotional problems, or whatever it is. In other words, if they have the problem, then they should fix it. If they have the problem, they should get it fixed, and it renders us powerless in that situation to do anything productive to move forward with the patient. In other words, if our attitude is, these people are just crazy, well, you can't deal with a crazy person. You have to institutionalize them, lock them up, and put them away. That kind of an attitude, that kind of frame, isn't going to move things forward. Now, contrast that to this, which is if our attitude is that something has happened to the patient, just like something's happened to this guy on the screen. He just got punched in the face. Something has happened to them that's caused them to act this way. It's an entirely different frame, entirely different attitude. In other words, people act the way they do because something's happened. There's been some type of a trigger, and they're responding in some type of a way. Many times it's emotional. It's a cause and effect relationship. In other words, punch me in the face, and I'll probably punch you back or react in some way. If someone punched the patient in the face right before they walked into your office, they'd probably be in a pretty bad place, and they might react accordingly. So whether they're reacting to you or something that's happened in the practice, or they're reacting to something that happened previously that you didn't have anything to do with, most behavior is a reaction to something. So if that's the case, that means that behavior can be changed when they react to something else. So keep that in mind. If your frame in the past has been there's something wrong with these people, consider changing your frame to something's happened that has caused them to react in a way that right now isn't productive. So no matter what the patient behavior is, here's the first question is, ask yourself, why might they be acting this way? Is there something that happened? Is there something we did that they've experienced, or maybe something they've experienced in a previous dental office that's causing them to act this way? Just ask yourself why. That's step number one. You know, when it comes to undesirable behavior, it's usually a reaction to not getting what we want. Just like the 2-year-old who throws a temper tantrum. People tend to act out when they don't get what they want. If they can't express their feelings in a controlled way and don't know how to get what they want, then they usually take the course of least resistance and act out, just like this 2-year-old. But even 2-year-olds have a reason why they're acting the way they do. Now, consider this example. Many of you that have joined us at the TOPS Total Immersion course are familiar with this analogy because I think it's an apt one. If you're ill and went to the doctor, and the doctor prescribed some medication and then asked you to come back in a week for a checkup, and you returned and the doctor said, you're having a reaction to the medication. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, if you're reacting to a medication, it's a bad thing. Versus if you went to the physician and you came back and they said you're responding to the medication, you're having a response, then that would be a good thing. So the message here and the reminder is, while the patient might be reacting to something that's bad that's happened currently or in your past, your job is not to react, but to respond. And with the proper response, then you have the opportunity to get a better outcome. That's our goal. So while the patient might be reacting to something that's that's negative that's happened in the past, your job is not to react, but to respond. And then with the proper response, you have the opportunity to get a better outcome. You always have a choice: react or respond. So we'd like to talk about some concrete ways, some positive ways that there are to respond so that you have a better chance of achieving a better outcome. So for starters, we'd like to suggest 3 self-questions that you begin with, that you train yourself to ask quickly anytime you're confronted with any type of undesirable behavior. Where we get trapped is when we react without thinking. So these can be run through in just 1 or 2 quick seconds, but 3 questions to ask yourself before you respond. Pam?
All right, the first one is to stop. Stop dead in your tracks and ask yourself, what is really going on here? People act the way they do for a reason. In most cases, it's attached to how someone else has treated them or how they perceive they've been treated. So you want to make sure that you stop first. And the language that Steve and I are using is behavior, not the person. So first, stop. And if you need a phrase to remember, just tell yourself stop and pull yourself together. You ready for number 2, Steve?
I'm ready. So as an interesting example of that, one of my favorite stories by Zig Ziglar, I think I heard this when I was 12 years old. Zig used to tell a story about a business owner named Mr. B. And Mr. B, after getting a speeding ticket, got upset and went back to the office and chewed out his sales manager, got angry at him, asked him why sales weren't up to par, and told him he better get his act together or he was going to get fired. The sales manager then presently turned right around, walked back to his office, and chewed out his secretary. The secretary then presently went on, and the next person that she encountered was the switchboard operator, who then at the end of the day went home, and because she was angry and frustrated by the way she'd been treated, she chewed out her 12-year-old son. The 12-year-old son then presently moved on and went outside, and the first thing he encountered was the family cat. And he took out his anger on the cat and presently kicked the cat. Now, Zig makes the point that it would have been a lot better and probably would have saved a lot of pain and agony if Mr. B had just gone directly from getting the ticket over to the switchboard operator's house and kicked the cat himself. But unfortunately, sometimes that's not usually the way it happens. Sometimes we are the cat. Sometimes I know you feel like the cat with a patient who might come in and has had something happen somewhere else, and you happen to be the next thing right in front of their face and they kick the cat. It may or may not have had anything to do with you. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the point is to stop and ask yourself, why might this person be acting this way? Because there is a reason. There's always a reason. Pam, question number 2.
All right. The next is ask yourself, what can I control here? I love the visual aid because this is how we operate. It's almost like you have to just turn it off. And so looking at the situation, knowing that there's a person attached to it, this will prevent you from having what I call a double E, which is an emotional explosion. So you want to make sure you stay in control, because what you have control over is your own behavior, not the other person's behavior.
Austrian psychologist or psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who was the survivor of several concentration camps during World War II. He said in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he said this: everything can be taken from a man, but the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. The end of the quote. So at the end of the day, keep in mind, you choose your response. Stay in control. It's a choice. Pam, let's talk about question number 3.
All right. Number 3 is ask yourself, is this a human being? If so, treat them that way. We will always respond kindly if we are treated kindly, but just like we said before, that people behave based on how they perceive they're treated. So they may not be in the right place, stemming from the very first example that I gave from the doctor's patient that came in that was a hospice nurse. So always ask yourself, this is when I'm talking to myself, if there's someone that is just in a bad place, I always ask myself, is this the last conversation that I want this person to hear from me if it's their last day on earth? And by saying that, it's like in your face, so you'll really revamp how you treat that person, because they are a human being. And if you were the last person to say something to them, wouldn't you pick something better than what you're actually thinking, especially if they put you in a situation that doesn't feel good?
Thanks, Pam. So as a quick review, here's the 3 questions to ask yourself quickly when confronted with undesirable behavior. 1, quickly ask yourself, why might they be acting this way? Excuse me. Why might they be acting this way? 2, what do I have control over in this situation? At the end of the day, the final question is, I do have control over how I respond. And then number 3 is, are they human? And if this is the last conversation I were to have with this person, then what would I say? Treat them like a human. It's a choice, not just a reaction. So 3 essential questions to ask yourself and remind yourself before you engage. Now, we're going to talk about 2 essential steps. We made this a pretty simple process, but 2 essential steps when dealing with unmanageable behavior. So after you ask yourself the 3 quick questions before you proceed with the response, then here's the response mechanism. Here's the 2 things that you do in general. Number 1, hold up the mirror to the other person. Imagine that you have a big mirror or a pocket mirror, whatever it is, and that you're simply going to hold that mirror up to the other person so they can see, feel, and hear exactly what they're doing and exactly what they're saying. Many times when you get undesirable behavior, the other person doesn't totally understand what the real issue is. So by holding up the mirror, you're going to help identify what the real issue is. You're going to give feedback, and step 1 is to feedback the facts and ask for more information. Keep holding up the mirror until you get agreement as to what the real issue is. Now, let me give you a quick example. Pam and I are going to do a quick example here of, let's say there's a patient sitting in the chair and the doctor's running late. The schedule's running late and the patient is upset. So the wrong way to do it would be to do something like the following. Let's say Pam's the patient. I walk in as the doctor and Pam says,
I've been waiting here a long time. What took you so long?
I'm really sorry. We've got a real backup of patients today. It's just been crazy, but we're going to get started and we're ready to go. Okay, that's the wrong way to respond because you've just brushed by that behavior, and the behavior is likely to continue. Now, here's the principle. When you deny an emotion life, like what I just did, I just kind of brushed by it and said, yeah, I know, we're going to get started. When you deny it life and don't acknowledge it, it will fight for survival. Let me say that again. When you deny an emotion or a reaction, when you deny it life, it will keep coming back and it will fight for survival. Acknowledge it and then allow it out and it will die. So again, deny an emotion, it will fight for survival. Acknowledge it and let it live, and it will eventually die. So let's try this again. Let's say in this particular scenario that Pam has felt discounted because she's feeling ignored and discounted because she's been sitting in the chair for longer than she expected. Here might be the potential outcome. I walk in, we're running late. Pam says,
I've been waiting a long time. I didn't think anybody was going to come in. Take care of
Pam,
me.
I really apologize about that. We had a situation that came up in the next room with a patient who really needed some immediate help, and I apologize that we've kept you waiting. I'm sure that was uncomfortable and not what you wanted to experience today. Am I right?
You're right.
So Pam, let me ask you this. It sounds like, and I apologize for for keeping you waiting. That's not what we like to do. We're going to get busy, and I'm going to give you my 100% total attention. How's that sound?
Great. I would like that.
Okay. So that's one scenario. Let's say that maybe that's not a real concern. Maybe Pam has a tight schedule, and she's concerned about running late for her next appointment. So, same thing. She says exactly the same thing when I walk in the door. I'm running late. She says,
I thought I was going to get out here a lot sooner. It's going to run me behind because I have other appointments scheduled. So I didn't plan on being here this long.
Pam, I really apologize that we kept you waiting today. We had a situation that came up that we needed to handle for another patient. We certainly don't want to inconvenience you. So it sounds like you have a very tight schedule today.
I do.
And you don't want to run late for your next appointment.
No.
Okay. So let's work together here and see what we can do to make sure we get the maximum amount accomplished, but at the same time help you keep your next commitment.
Okay.
Okay, so the difference that we wanted to illustrate here is when you hold up the mirror, when you really listen and you feed back, you're identifying what the real issue is. In those two scenarios, the issues were very different. In the first one, she just felt ignored, discounted. In the second situation, she was running behind and afraid that she was going to be late for her next appointment. So hold up the mirror and keep giving feedback and ask for more information so you can identify what the real issue is. Once you identify what the real issue is, then you can move on to step number 2. Step number 2 is to express intent and explore possible solutions. So express intent and let them know that your intent was not to do bad or to do ill, but your intent was good. So in this previous situation, I expressed my intent was, I'm very sorry, we didn't intend to run late today. We had a situation with the patient that needed immediate attention, and I apologize that you had to wait today. That was not what our intent was. So at least express sincere intent so they know where you're coming from. And then by asking, explore possible solutions. Let's talk about what we can do now to make it right. And if you've identified what the real issue is, then you can make it right. So those are the two key things. Hold up the mirror and keep giving feedback until you've identified what the real issue is. And then number 2, express intent, what your sincere intent is, and then ask and explore possible solutions. It's a very simple process. We designed it that way so that it can be used in almost every situation. Now, that being the case, we're going to walk through several different scenarios here of different things that are encountered almost every day in the dental office. And so you can see these two steps at play in work, which is 1, hold up the mirror, 2, express intent and explore solutions. And these are ones that you express, that you deal with every day. As we go through these, if you have other scenarios or other questions on how you might handle something, feel free to type in the question, and we'll deal with as many different scenarios as we can before we wrap up today. So here's the first scenario that we'll talk about. In this scenario, Pam is going to be the team member. I'm going to be the patient. And the situation is that as the patient, I don't want to pay anything until all of my insurance pays, and then I'm going to pay the remainder, whereas you want me to pay my portion, my estimated portion, up front before you schedule treatment. So the scenario might go like this. So Pam, I get all that. Here's what we're going to do is I want you just to go ahead and send in my insurance claim. Let's see what they'll pay, and then whatever the remainder is, I'll pay the remainder. But I'm not going to pay anything today until I see what my insurance is going to cover. Just not going to do it.
Just not going to do it. Steve, you
Nope.
sound pretty firm. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Go
Have
ahead.
you had an unfavorable experience with billing?
Oh, everywhere.
Okay.
Everybody wants all their money up front, and I'm the guy who gets left holding the bag. Last time I was at the medical office, they billed me a bunch of stuff up front, and then my insurance didn't cover what they said it was going to cover, and then I was left holding the bag for the whole thing, and they sent me to collections. They ruined my credit, the whole deal. Nobody's ever doing that to me again.
Wow. Okay. It sounds like you want to protect your finances.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Steve, let me tell you what I can do for you and see if this changes things for you. This
Okay.
is what we do for all of our patients, and we'll do the same for you. We actually will get a breakdown, as a courtesy to you, a breakdown of your benefits, and whatever your insurance agreed to do, we'll make sure that we share that with you. And if there's any changes, we'll make sure that we share that with you as well. That way there's no surprises, and we're working together on this. Would that help you and give you peace of mind if you knew the steps that we would take?
Yeah, I just want to be left holding the bag. They wouldn't even return my phone call. It was just like, I got the bill, and it was my problem, and nobody would talk to me, and they just sent me to collections, and it was just totally handled wrong.
Okay.
So yeah,
So if
we can stay in communication. That's the important part.
Okay, I can do that. So if I give you my commitment that I will be that contact person, so that if there's any changes, that it would be me that would contact you and let you know what's going on, that would give you peace of mind so that you won't feel like you're left holding the bag?
You got it.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, so Pam did a good job of doing both steps. One, holding up the mirror and identifying what the real issue is. The real issue in this case was that I had had a bad experience somewhere else, and I was reacting to that experience, and she was paying the price. She expressed sincere intent and then explored some possible solutions that might work. Now, Pam, let's talk about what happens if that doesn't work.
As if the patient just says, no, I'm not going to do it?
Yeah, if I was still adamant and said, I get it, that's what they've all said to me in the past, but I'm just not doing it. I'm not paying a penny until we see what my insurance will pay. It's not going to do it. You all say the same thing, you all say the same thing, and then when it gets to the other end, it's all about the money. Okay, so offline here, what I'm saying is the patient is still so anchored in a previous bad experience they've had somewhere else that they are intent on you're paying the price for this, not me.
Okay. Well, I know that there are some practices, and I wouldn't go this direction as far as submitting everything to insurance, doing a predetermination. It would still backfire because a pre-D is the same thing as getting an estimate of benefits. Insurance can still say, I'm not going to go that route. And so what I would do is really talk with the patient, get their trust level at a good place, and see if I can get them on our side so that we can serve them better.
So I think the point here is you've got to establish got to get them into some point where you can establish some rapport and level of trust, because this screams, I don't trust anybody. Mm-hmm. So trust is really the issue, not the money.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
And I think that's a theme through all of this is the relationship carries the day, and if you can't build the relationship to the point where you can have an even-handed conversation or relationship, no amazing verbal skills are going to solve that problem. It's feedback, feedback, feedback until you can build a better relationship and get on the same level.
I agree.
Let's try another one. This is one that happens all the time. Pam's going to be the patient on this one, and she's the chronic canceller. She just is chronically just not showing up. So again, let's go back to the frame here. Is your frame, there's something wrong with this person and they just cancel all the time and they don't value our time and they're abusing us. If that's your frame, then you're going to act accordingly. Or is your frame, there's something wrong that is happening to this person that's standing in the way, and we need to figure out how we can get on the same page. So Pam calls the office and says,
I did it again. I'm so sorry. I missed another appointment. Please forgive me. I know that I've missed a lot of appointments, but I get so busy, and I put Post-it notes, and I have it in my phone, and I still miss the appointment. So please forgive me. Can I just find another time that'll work?
So, Pam, I appreciate the call. Okay, offline here.
Okay.
I'm going to hold up the mirror. So, Pam, it sounds like you have a lot going on.
Okay, I do.
A lot of appointments, a lot of commitments, and it sounds like it's a struggle to keep track of all of the things that you've got going on.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because I know how important your dental health is to you, and I sense that this is important. It's something you really want to do. We just got to figure out a better system to help get you here. Am I right?
You can do that? Yes. Yes.
Okay. Tell me what would be the best for you, and maybe I could make a suggestion here. Let's explore a couple things, because I really want to help you make this work, if at all possible. Go ahead, Pam.
I think a morning appointment.
Okay. So here's two options. One, we could schedule you in the morning, and I could give you a call the morning of as a reminder, if that would help. So that's one option. Second option, I don't do this except for patients I really like, is occasionally we have changes in the schedule, same day. And what we might think about doing is I could keep you here close by the phone, and if in the event we have a change in the schedule, I could give you a call same day, and if it fits in your schedule that day, then we could have you come in. Which of those might work the best for you?
I like option number 2. If you could just keep me on your short call list. Okay.
And we'll call you the same day when we have an opening, and if it works that day for you, then we can slip you in. That work better for you?
Yes, that would work better. Thank you.
Got it. Now, that's one scenario, but I think, again, it goes back to what's your frame, and then following those 2 steps. Hold up the mirror until you identify what the real issue is. The real issue is maybe they don't value the treatment. Maybe it's they don't know how they're going to pay for it. You don't know until you hold up the mirror and you keep feeding it back to identify what the real issue is, and then express sincere intent and explore possible solutions that might work for them. Okay, how about this next one? This is one that you're faced with all the time, which is a patient comes in, typically a new patient, and they say, I just want my teeth cleaned. Now this time I'm going to be the patient. I'll be a new patient. I came in to get my teeth cleaned, got an exam and cleaning, and I did say in the initial interview that I do want to keep my teeth, that the health of my teeth is important, and what's been prescribed is some perio treatment, but I just want my teeth cleaned. So Pam's a team member. So Pam, I get all this, and that's great and good, all that treatment. So I just want my teeth cleaned today. That's why I came in. I just want my teeth cleaned today.
Okay. So Steve, I hear you. I know that when you came in, you did say that you wanted to make sure that your teeth are healthy and that you wanted them to feel good. Do you feel that what I just told you that you needed to have in order to keep your teeth wouldn't make your teeth feel good?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just, I like to get them clean. I don't like all that, how they feel when they're not clean. So I just want to get them clean. And I just, all that other stuff, everywhere I go, everybody wants to do all this other stuff, but clean my teeth. I just want them to feel good.
Okay. All right. So if we were to do your gum therapy, because you said you wanted to keep your teeth, and make sure that they feel good, because you said with all of the gunk, did you mean the surface, like when you're running your tongue across your teeth?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I want them to feel smooth as glass.
Okay. So if you knew that having your gum therapy, which is going to keep your teeth, help you keep your teeth, and you would leave today with them feeling smooth, would that give you the satisfaction of knowing that you had your gum therapy, you're going to keep your teeth, and you had your teeth cleaned?
Well, yeah, if we could do that. As long as I get my teeth cleaned today, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. All right. So got to make sure I understand you right. You want them to feel good. Like when you run your tongue across, I'm going to feel good.
That's it.
And you want to make sure that you keep your teeth.
Yeah, I want to keep my teeth, but I want to walk out of here today and I want them to feel good.
Okay, great. I can do that.
All right, so here's the scenario. Now, and I want you to keep in mind, if you're listening, that each of these scenarios can take unlimited number of directions. The scenario here that we wanted to illustrate is that in some cases, when you prescribe treatment, that the patient interprets that as that they're not going to have the outcome that they wanted when they came in. In other words, sometimes they think that perio treatment means you're not going to get your teeth cleaned. In other words, it's their perception. So you have to hold up the mirror and understand what they really want. In this case, I just want them to feel good. You can do whatever you want. I just want to make sure they feel good when they walk out the door. So again, that could take, we could probably spend an hour just on that one scenario alone of all the different directions that could take. But it goes back to those two skills. Feedback, hold up the mirror, and so you understand what the real issue is. And then express intent and explore solutions. Pam?
Steve, can I add one more thing on that? With this actual scenario, which was a true scenario, the patient was okay with the gum therapy, but he thought, just like you said, that he considered polishing teeth clean. So to have his teeth polished, he didn't think he was going to get that. So once he knew that that would be part of that it would feel smooth in conjunction with doing the gum therapy, he was okay with it.
You got it. All right, here's a related one. So this is the patient who says, I don't want fluoride. Fluoride's just for kids. All right, so Pam's the team member, maybe a hygienist. We're going through the hygiene visit, and Pam asks what flavor of fluoride I'd like today.
All right, Steve, would you like strawberry or grape fluoride today?
Oh, no, fluoride, no, I don't need fluoride. Fluoride's just for kids, so I don't need that.
Okay, so you said fluoride's for kids?
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, Steve,
I know my childhood dentist did all that, and that was for when, I had my young teeth, and I get all that, but I'm older now. I don't need fluoride.
You're older now. All right. Well, let me ask you this, Steve. You have 7 kids, correct?
Correct. Wow.
All right. If you were to put everybody in a rented bus and
okay.
you drove down to Galveston Beach and you and Cheryl were sitting out in the sand and the kids wanted to play in the water, before you set them free, what would you do?
Well, I'd probably do 2 things. One, make sure they're safe. So want to make sure they had life jackets on, the ones who needed those, and probably put some sunscreen on them because I don't want them to get sunburned.
Oh, so you would put sunscreen on the kids?
Sure.
Okay. Would you put sunscreen on you and your wife as well?
Well, sure. In fact, we probably need it more than they do.
Absolutely. Well, that's fluoride. Fluoride is sunscreen for your teeth. It's for adults and kids. So just like you would put it on your kids at the beach, and you would put it on you and your wife, that's the same thing for fluoride. It's not just for kids. It'll take care of you as well, just like the sunscreen blocks the rays from you as an adult. You'll do the same thing for your kids.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I never knew that.
Yes.
Okay. So again, here's the point of this is Pam held up the mirror, and she fed back my concern, which was, I think fluoride's for kids and there's no benefit for me. Then she added on a skill. She used a great word picture to help me understand what the real solution was and why it was important. But the key to it is identifying what the real concern is first, and then making sure that there is a solution that fits. Love the word picture, Pam. Thanks for sharing that with us. For everybody who's listening, that's a keeper on that one. All right, next one. This time, Pam's going to be the patient, and the the unmanageable behavior here, if you will, is that the tooth didn't start hurting until the dentist started working on it. So it may have been really any kind of a restorative procedure, and now the patient's saying, well, everything was fine until you touched the tooth, and now it's just, it hurts all the time.
Oh, my tooth did not start hurting until you started working on it.
Got it. So, Pam, it sounds like your experience with, at least with this tooth and fast, is it felt okay until now we started working on it, and now it's kind of like, wow, we've stirred the pot, and it would have been better off if we'd not touched it at all. Am I on track?
Yes.
Okay, so you're kind of feeling like you wish you'd never opened up this can of worms. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I totally get that. In fact, that is not uncommon for this to happen. And I'll tell you what's going on here. Have you ever, Pam, have you ever opened up, because I really want to make sure you and I are on the same page together and we understand what's going on here. Have you ever opened up a package of something, or maybe you cut open a piece of fruit that looked good on the outside, and then when you opened it up, it was rotten on the inside?
Yeah.
It looked fine, but when you open it up. And, here's sometimes what we find is that teeth are kind of sometimes that way. They're a little bit deceiving, is that there may be problems underneath the surface that aren't, visible to the eye, but when we start to work, it kind of stirs up problems that are there but haven't yet come to the surface. And what we usually find is that those problems are going to come to the surface one way or the other. Either we take care of them today, or they're going to surface on their own terms tomorrow when we may not be as prepared to deal with them. So the fact that you're having problems today is probably just a sign that the problems were there. We just got to deal with them today instead of waiting to deal with them sometime else whenever they decide to surface.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it makes perfectly good sense.
Sorry that you've got some discomfort. We're going to do everything we can to get you out of pain and get to the bottom of the problem so that you're comfortable and you've got a good long-term solution.
Okay, perfect. I would like that.
Okay, so in that case, again, same deal. Hold up the mirror. Keep holding it up till you get agreement on what the real issue is. And again, if I could just, I know I'm repetitive here, but that's the real key, is you keep feeding back until you get agreement on what the real problem is, and then express intent and explore possible solutions. If you go to solution first, if you get these two things backwards, if you go to solution first without holding up the mirror, then usually the problem does not get resolved. That's where you really stop and make sure that you take the time to identify the real problem. Here's another one. This will be our last one, at least, that we have planned, and if there's others, we'll be happy to address them. This is one where the patient asks for a different dental assistant because the one that's working on the patient is too rough. So I get to be the patient on this one, and let's say Pam is the doctor, another team member, and I say something like this. Pam, listen, real quickly here, can you get another dental assistant in here? Because this one that's in here today, she is rough. I mean, she was trained by the Viet Cong. She's so rough. Can you have somebody else come work in here today?
Oh, Steve, first of all, I want to apologize to you for having experienced that. And not to downplay it, but I've worked with Brenda for a long time, and I've never had this concern.
Well, maybe she's having a bad day. I don't know.
Oh,
maybe I remind her of her ex-husband or something.
Well, I don't think so. But I tell you what, Steve, because I want to make sure that you have a great visit in our office. We value you as a patient, and I want every visit to be a great visit. If you had an opportunity to improve a person's growth, would you take advantage and help them?
Would I?
Yes. If you had,
yeah, I mean, I think it'd be the right thing to do.
Okay. I do too. I feel the same way. So are you okay if I share this information with Brenda so I can let her know what's working and what's not? That way she can grow from this experience, and you don't have to worry about ever feeling like this again.
All right. Well, she won't be mad, will she?
Absolutely not. She will actually be grateful because you cared enough about her to allow her to grow.
Okay. Well, if you tell her, I'm cool. That's fine.
I will. In fact, when I share this information with her, because I know her so well, she'll apologize and take any information that you give her to make it a better visit. And in the event that this doesn't go as planned, please let me know, because I want to make sure that you are totally taken care of. So is that okay if I go that route?
You got it. All right.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for telling me.
You got it. Now, again, I just want to restate this on all of the different situations that we've talked about. Each and every one of these could take a myriad of different directions. The key is not the direction that this takes. The key is to follow the steps in resolving the problem. So again, let's just do a quick review, which is first, you're going to ask yourself 3 questions. First, you're going to stop and you're going to ask yourself, what's causing this person to act this way? Why are they acting the way? What triggered this? What's the cause? At least ask yourself that question. It's not these people are just crazy. It's what's caused them to act this way. 2, ask yourself, what can I control? Well, you can always control yourself and how you respond. And 3 is, how can I treat them with respect? How can I treat them as a human being? And if this were the last interaction I were to ever have with this person, then how would I do it so that it would be done right? So those are the 3 self-questions that you start with. Then you proceed with holding up the mirror, and you keep holding up the mirror until you've identified and come to mutual agreement what the real issue is. And then you can proceed with expressing intent and exploring possible solutions that might work for them using questions. So again, questions are the key. You hold up the mirror using questions. You explore possible solutions using questions, but both of those have that in common. Hold up the mirror and express intent. So those 2 things, I hope that has been somewhat repetitive in all of those different scenarios, but the system is relatively simple. It's the practical application that we really need to work on in practice. Hold up the mirror, express intent, and explore solutions. So with that, Greg, why don't we address any questions or other scenarios that might have come up?
All right, Steve and Pam, we have 5 questions. The first one is, how do you handle it when a patient is very nice to the doctor but isn't as nice to the front desk? So they go out to the front desk and the front desk is going to talk to them about the cost of treatment, and they keep making references to, say, the doctor's new house and car that they're paying for.
Got it. Thank you. All right, Pam, you want to be the financial coordinator?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, I say, well, okay, yeah, I get it. That's a lot of money, and I guess, another BMW in the driveway for Dr. Jones.
Okay. Steve, tell me more about that.
Well, it's just, just this stuff is really expensive. I mean, really? Does it really cost that much? Really?
Okay. So tell me what your concern is. I want to make sure that I take good care of you. Is it the total amount that you're concerned with?
Okay, so I'm going to pause here. Here's the point, is Pam keeps asking questions. She keeps drilling down to find out what the real issue is. And so she keeps asking, she keeps holding up the mirror until she identifies it. So let's proceed forward. Well, it's just, does a crown really cost that much money, Pam? I mean, really? Does it cost that much? A lot of money for a crown.
Okay, so you're surprised with what it's costing to get your mouth into the health that you wanted, because I heard you and Dr. Anderson speaking in the back. So am I safe to assume that?
Yeah, that's it. Now, I'm going to stop there. We probably don't need to go any further. I mean, we could, but the point of this is, again, going back, hold up the mirror and keep asking questions and feed back the emotion that's being fed to you, or what you hear, what they're saying. So if they're if they were nicey-nicey to the doctor and they're treating you unpleasant, then you could say, Steve, I'm sensing that you're really upset. And by, kind of by the comments you're making, what's going on here, share with me what's caused the upset. Tell me what you're upset about. In other words, if you can name the emotion and feed it back to them better than they've expressed it, then you've given life to the emotion and it will die.
Absolutely.
So you've got to keep feeding it back until you get down to what the real issue is.
And this will be quick, Steve, but the one thing not to do is to ignore the sarcasm or to ignore the behavior, because we ignore it, and then when they leave, we actually tend to that behavior what we think it is, that they don't like us or they're rude or something else. You have to make sure that you do exactly what Steve just suggested, is make sure that you follow up asking questions so that you can find out what the real problem is.
Got it. All right, Greg, next question.
All right. Also on financial arrangements, what if you have a patient and you're going over the financial arrangements and they ask if they can pay on a monthly basis, you give them a third-party credit application, and they say, I already know I have bad credit, I know I won't be approved, but I'll pay you on time.
Got it.
Is that okay?
All right, so this really goes, that is really a financial arrangements question. Mm-hmm. And so here would be a suggestion on that particular point, because there's a lot of questions behind that question. If you'll go to crowncouncil.org, click on the training tab, and then go to webinars and go to the webinar, Greg, I believe it's the webinar library, is that right?
Correct, down the bottom of the screen, blue bar.
Blue bar, webinar library. There are 2 excellent webinars that will give you the full answer to that. One is entitled, I Can't Afford It, and it really deals with verbal skills, and in particular that one of what to do, what to say. So there's that one. And then the other one is entitled 50 Ways to Pay. And it goes through a number of different scenarios of options to pay beyond third-party financing where they may not qualify. So the answer to that particular deal is if they don't qualify for third-party financing and you know they don't qualify, then yes, to have a successful outcome, you've got to have other options that you can explore with them that will help them pay for treatment. So those 2 webinars, especially the 50 Ways to Pay, will give you a great laundry list of a bunch of other alternatives that you might offer to them as a way to meet their financial obligations. So you keep suggesting until you come up with one that might fit their scenario. One of my other favorites, all of these kind of fit together, is the Yes Practice. That's also another webinar if you haven't watched it. Deals with how you always keep suggesting possible solutions without having to say no to the patient. So all 3 of those are excellent things to go back and review that'll help a lot in those scenarios. All right, great.
All right, next question would be, how do you deal with a patient that believes they should be paid or compensated when they are rescheduled within 48 hours, since the practice has a policy asking the patients for 48 hours to call them if they need to be rescheduled?
I love this one. In fact, let me share with you a quick experience on this, because this just happened to us at our house. I shared this with Pam the other day. Cheryl had an appointment with a physician, and at the last minute they called and asked her to, told her that the doctor had something to come up, and so they were going to reschedule her. And she had made extraordinary arrangements to make this appointment work, had gotten child care for the kids, had moved appointments because this guy was hard to see. She'd really gone above and beyond to try and make this work. So they rescheduled the appointment, and then just circumstantially slipped her mind, and she didn't make the rescheduled appointment. And so they sent her a bill for $50. So it's exactly the same. I mean, it's a very similar situation. So here would be my thought is, you know what? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if you make it a policy in your practice that you charge patients if they change an appointment within 48 hours, then the right thing to do would be that your policy on the other end is, you know, thanks for making the commitment, and we like to make sure everything works. If in the event you have to change this within 48 hours, then you know, there is a charge for it if that's your policy. And if in the event we ever have to move you within 48 hours, we value your time and we'll pay you $50. Now, I know that's outrageous. You might say, well, that's outrageous. But, yeah, here's the point. What the patient's really saying is, you arrogant doctor, if you think your time is more valuable than mine, you got it coming to you. And I would probably second that. In other words, if you're going to have a policy in place to protect your time, then it's a good idea to consider the value of your patient's time and what you're going to do in return. The other option would be just get rid of your 48-hour policy. As a general rule, I personally do not like cancellation policies because basically it sends the message that it's okay to cancel and move your appointment anytime up to this particular time versus placing value on it and expressing that value and communicating that we all work really hard to keep our commitments here. So that particular deal, that's probably food for thought. They're saying something to you. They're sending a message that you may be saying to them through your policies, our time's more valuable than yours, and that may not be the message you want to send to your patients. So that might be food for thought to have a conversation about what your policy is. All right, Greg.
These two both deal with your cleaning example, and one is a comment and one is a question. One is a comment. What about using the idea for the periotherapy? The roots are part of the teeth, and in order for the teeth to be truly clean, sometimes a deeper cleaning therapy is necessary for the teeth to be truly clean.
You got it. That's great. Again, there are, if we have the time to do this, all of us could come up with some great ideas, other scenarios, other directions. So absolutely, I think the point in our example was the patient had the perception that their teeth weren't going to feel clean. And what they wanted was that clean feeling. So we were trying to address the fact that, yes, they're going to feel clean when we get done. But also that might be another direction, another scenario. Absolutely.
This one also deals with the cleaning, and I think you probably answered it because the question came in while you were talking. But in the cleaning example, what if x-rays and exam were what was needed with the cleaning rather than the periotherapy? Would the verbal skill be any different?
So if the patient didn't want x-rays, is that what I'm
didn't want x-rays and an exam, he just wanted his teeth cleaned, rather than the perio treatment, which implies that you had had a previous visit with the patient.
You got it. All right, so let me go back in the interest of time. Let's go back to the principles because I think we can take any scenario that we come up with and we deal with, and we could script out how to deal with every one. But at the end of the day, what drives this and will give you a successful outcome is sticking with the principles. Ask the 3 questions that we've talked about today. What's caused them to act this way or react this way? What's been their experience? What can I
last
control
question,
in this situation?
Steve. Excuse me. The last question, and maybe you just answered it with that, is what about the patients that simply are not nice and you really don't want to serve them?
Okay. So
parentheses here, and you know who they are.
Yeah, and there's probably a certain small percentage of the population that are just miserable people. And again, I think one thing to ask yourself was what's your true belief about people? Because my experience has been that, yeah, every once in a while you may run across somebody who's just a miserable, grumpy, and they're that way to everyone. That, I think, is just a minority of the population. So again, check your frame. But if you have somebody like that, and Pam, let's just do this one to wrap up.
Okay.
Let's say, Pam, that you are ornery every time you come into the practice. And so I might say this. I might take a moment and I might say this. I'd say, Pam, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
It seems like, and I may be way off base here, but it seems like every time you come in that there is always something that's upsetting.
Well, you guys upset me.
Tell me about that.
It just doesn't feel good here. You know, I don't think anybody's nice here, except for me. I just don't have a good experience when I come here. I know I need to have my teeth cleaned. I know I need to have the work done. I don't feel good when I come here.
Okay. So is there anything that we're doing in specific that's causing you to feel that way?
Well,
or
no,
not.
can't.
I mean, is it just that maybe somebody here reminds you of somebody you don't like, or you don't like our wallpaper, or you don't like our music, or is there, help me understand where it's coming from.
No, now you put it that way, I can't really pinpoint it. I guess I'll have to just tell you when it happens, but, I can't pinpoint it, what's upsetting to me.
All right, so can I make a deal with you?
Sure.
Here's the deal. One, we value you as a patient. We want to take really good care of you, and we want you to have a good experience. If there's something that we're doing that's causing you not to have a good experience, then I want to know specifically what it is, and if we can correct it, I want to correct it. If we can't correct it, I mean, if there's just something that is just an existing situation and there's nothing that we can do to correct it, and it's a big issue to you, then I would like to help you find another office where you can go and be comfortable and not be upset. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, I would do it exactly like that, and the bottom line is she's on notice that, in a nice way, I've said the behavior you're exhibiting is not acceptable here. And either we're going to make the changes necessary to make you comfortable, or we're going to help you find someplace else, but we're not going to continue going on the same path. I think that's the bottom line. So with that, I hope we've shared some things today that are helpful. Again, with those tools that we've shared, the 3 questions, and then the 2 steps, hold up the mirror, and then express intent and explore solutions. Again, sometimes when you have a good framework that you can use to move through situations like this that will guide you through the process, you can work through just about any situation. So thanks again for joining us today. Questions can always be addressed to us either at the Crown Council office or at the Total Patient Service Institute. Our number's there on the screen, 877-399-8677, or answers@totalpatientservice.com. So thanks for being with us today. Hope that helps you manage some unmanageable patient behavior. Great to be with you. We look forward to being with you next time for our next Crown Council webinar. Have a super day, and hope you have a lot more fun with a few more tools to manage your patients along the way. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve and Pam.